here. What? All right. Taking it from.
Anything that may displease God, lest he be provoked to wrath and avenge their iniquities upon them.
Right. This was like a lesson for them to learn. To not piss off the Most High. This is a lesson that Esau should learn right now. He should be learning this right now. Come on, nice and fast.
For the Egyptian river ran with bloody water at the command of God.
The rivers start running red, the blood everywhere, all that. And the reason I wanted to read this part to you, brothers, is because this part of the scriptures and in this story, Josephus gives you a real understanding of the courage these brothers had and how they put their faith in the Most High. Bear with me, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Go ahead,
And so much that it could not be drunk. And they had no other spring of water neither. For the water was not only of the color of blood, but it brought upon those that ventured to drink of it, great pains and bitter torment.
They called hell messing around trying to drink that bloody water, which was everywhere, which is exactly what America wants to do with us. They want to control the water and all that. They're going to mess around and catch them a horrible plague messing with the Lord. Go ahead.
Such was the river of the Egyptians, but it was sweet and fit for drinking to the Hebrews.
Somehow our water was found on the other side. That somehow was the Lord. Go ahead.
And no way different from what it naturally used to be.
Further proof that we should be, just like we've been teaching, we got to separate from them. We got to get away from them because the Lord is going to start plaguing them. Like if we want the Lord to really do them in, we got to start doing just what we've been doing, which is separating them from them. Go ahead. The Lord don't get punked because some cat decided he want to be a dictator or say he gonna do this, that, and the other to the brothers. The brothers might catch some hell, but in the long run, this cat right here and this whole empire gonna pay the price for disobeying the Most High. Go ahead,
As the king therefore knew not what to do in these surprising circumstances.
They came up upon them, scared them, was surprising. Go ahead.
And was in fear of the Egyptians. He gave the Hebrews leave to go away. But when the plague ceased, he changed his mind again and would not suffer them to go.
Go ahead.
But when God saw that he was ungrateful and upon the season of this calamity would not grow wiser.
Right, and said he would not grow wiser, like he wouldn't learn this lesson of righteousness. The Lord was putting a lesson of righteousness on them for the evil they did. You see how right now America is pushing this white supremacy? They forgetting what we did. They forgetting the mercy that they should have on us for what they did. The Most High gonna swing this thing all the way back around on their head. Go ahead, question? None? Go. How y'all holding up? Y'all all right?
All
right, let's do it.
He sent another plague upon the Egyptians. An innumerable multitude of frogs consumed the fruit of the ground. The river was also full of them, and so much that those who drew water had it spoiled by the blood of these animals.
Frogs so where the blood everywhere, they were in hell. Go ahead.
As they died in and were destroyed by the water, and the country was full of filthy slime, as they were born and as they died.
Dang. So as they born and died, slime everywhere. Boy, that's coming to America. Go ahead.
They also spoiled their vessels in their houses, which they used and were found among that they eat.
So slime was in their plates and cups and all that. Go ahead.
And what they drank, and came in great numbers upon their beds.
What? Go ahead.
There was also an ungrateful smell, and a stink arose from them, as they were born, and as they died therein. Now when the Egyptians were under the oppression of these miseries, the king ordered Moses to take the Hebrews with him, and be gone, upon which the whole multitude of the frogs vanished away. and both the land and the river returned to their former natures. But as soon as Pharaoh saw the land free from this plague, he forgot the cause of it and retained the Hebrews.
And see, that's what they ain't learned from this COVID-19. This COVID-19, they were supposed to learn, listen, man, let's re-examine ourselves. Let's see if we're doing the right thing. Where have we been wrong at? And it would have come up, you was wrong with the Hebrews. That's why they protesting. That's why they raising hell. But he didn't want that. Now he got back in. He doubled down on it. And now that he doubled down on it, look for another plague. Look for more to come. Like now, they done put themselves in position to go toe-to-toe with the Most High. You about to see the greatest championship fight you've ever saw in your life. Better than Ali, better than Tyson, better than all that. You about to see the baddest battle you about to see on this earth. You about to see right here in America. And the Lord got the right one. Donald Trump is arrogant, proud, you understand, all of that. And doing evil to the Lord's chosen people. This is the perfect time to see the Most High step in and hit that left cross and that right hook. You know what I'm saying? And watch this cat really start rocking and reeling. Go ahead.
And as though he had a mind to try the nature of more such judgments.
Right. He had the mind to try the nature more than, meaning he saw that went down. So he was in the mindset of, I don't care what happened, man. We're going to still pursue forward. We're going to still overcome. Go ahead.
He would not yet suffer Moses and his people to depart, having granted that liberty rather out of fear than out of any good consideration.
Right. Grant, meaning out of fear rather than out of good consideration. What he was supposed to do is say, I know we've been wrong. I know we done dealt with y'all wrong. We're going to consider what happened and give you leave to go do what you want to do. Nah, this was a cruel cat. Go ahead.
Accordingly, God punished his falseness with another plague, added to the former. For there arose out of the bodies of the Egyptians an innumerable quantity of lice.
That's hell. You heard about lice before in school. The Egyptians caught an innumerable quantity coming all out of in their hair, in the animals' hair, all in their house. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Esau. Right. Like this, he acting like golden age. Like they gonna all of a sudden the streets gonna be like the 50s, cars shiny, life wonderful. Nah, brother, this place is about to get plagued and destroyed before the eyes of the Lord. Go ahead.
By which wicked as they were, they miserably perished, as not able to destroy this sort of vermin, either with washes or with ointments.
They was trying their best to get rid of that lice, couldn't do it. Go ahead. And now listen, and we ain't talking lice like you get in school. We talking about the kind of lice that can take your life. These people died from this lice. That mean they had to be everywhere. You know what I mean? In your food, in your mouth, in your eyes, your nose, in your hair, all in your bed, all in your genitals, all over your animals, in your drains, everywhere. They was getting plagued by this lice and was killing them. Go ahead.
At which terrible judgment the king of Egypt was in disorder, upon the fear into which he reasoned himself, lest his people should be destroyed, and that the manner of this death was also reproachful, so that he was forced in part to recover himself from his wicked temper to a sounder mind.
See that? He had a wicked temper. He had a real hatred for us. But the Lord said he had to recover from it temporarily because he knew he was catching hell. That's what makes these heathens back up. When these heathens get hit right by the Most High, that's what makes them back up. And that's what's getting ready to happen now. The more arrogant they become, the more the Most High going to step in and check that arrogancy and make them have to back up. Go ahead.
For he gave leave for the Hebrews themselves to depart. But when the plague thereupon ceased, he thought it proper to require that they should leave their children and wives behind them.
Which we know from the scriptures, he tried to negotiate that. Go ahead.
As pledges of their return, whereby he provoked God to be more vehemently angry at him.
Because he went and said, which means he knew, listen, I got to let these people go. But to cut a deal so they wouldn't lose everything, they turned around and said, you know, why don't y'all leave your children? And let me tell you something else too. he better hope Elon Musk and them computers work right. But see, they talking about coming out with robots and electronics and computers. That's why they think they don't need the slaves no more. And so they think we could do it better than Egypt. We'll bring the robots in and electronics, and we'll just get rid of them, and it'll be fine. But boy, oh boy, if it don't go well, if that AI decide to do something different or somebody hack into it, their ass is dead. Their ass is in trouble. Go ahead, which I totally expect to happen. Come on with it.
As if he thought to impose on his providence, and as if it were only Moses and not God.
Right. Go ahead.
Who punished the Egyptians for the sake of the Hebrews.
And that's such an important point. Like the Lord, like he tried to act like this was Moses doing this, not the Most High, with Moses. And so he tried to act like, you know, leave your children and try to negotiate. But the Lord was like, who the hell you think you are? You gonna negotiate with me when I said to let them go and I plagued you and you see that what I'm saying is true? All right, I'm gonna fix you now. Go ahead.
For he filled that country full of various sorts of pestilential creatures, with their various properties, such indeed.
Bugs and flies and fleas, all of that. Go ahead.
As had never come into the sight of men before.
Damn, some that never, like them cicadas that come out every 17 years. Y'all heard about that. They come up out the earth. Well, he got stuff that's in the earth that ain't never been seen by man. That the Lord could just pull up whenever he want and plague your whole damn kingdom. You be seeing bugs and creatures and different old funny looking things. Like, where the hell this come from? Stuff crawl right out the water. That's what happened to them Egyptians. They got good and screwed up. Go ahead.
By whose means the men perished themselves, and the land was destitute of husbandmen for its cultivation. But if anything escaped destruction from them, it was killed by a distemper which the men underwent also.
Good.
But
if you want to know what a distemper is, matter of fact, let's look it up. A distemper is a whole nother plague that comes down on you. You know what I mean? So not only did they get that plague, but there was other distempers. You need me? No. You got it? You got it? Go ahead.
In the Oxford Languages Dictionary, it says a viral disease of some animals, especially dogs, causing fever, coughing, and I'm not sure what that word is, but it says catarrh. Definition 2 says an attempt to illuminate the moral roots of the modern word distemper.
Okay. Basically, it's like a flu, like a virus you get, mostly from animals. You know what I mean? Which also the anthrax. You know, they had the anthrax in ancient Egypt. That came up from the sheep. All of those plagues came up and rocked their whole damn world, which will happen again because the temper of this ruler. Go ahead.
But when Pharaoh did not even then yield to the will of God, but while he gave leave to the husbands to take their wives with them, yet insisted that the children should be left behind, God presently resolved to punish his wickedness with several sorts of calamities, and those worse than the foregoing, which yet had so generally afflicted them. For their bodies had terrible boils, breaking forth with blains, while they were already inwardly consumed.
If you got a white girl, man, you better get separate room to start. So you gonna catch something. Go ahead.
And a great part of the Egyptians perished in this manner.
Tons of them died over that. Bodies everywhere. Go ahead.
But when the king was not brought to reason by this plague, hail was sent down from heaven, and such hail it was, as the climate of the Egypt had never suffered before, nor was it like to that which falls in other climates in wintertime.
Damn. It was worse than the usual winters in other countries. Meanwhile, Egypt is in Africa, in a desert. So It's warm down there. Right. But this plague came worse than any plague in winter. They woke up, brother, and hail coming down and snow and storm. Imagine you wake up, you in Egypt, you wake up, snow everywhere. Like, what the hell? You ain't got no electronics. You on foot. You know what I mean? Like, the whole damn place got turned into winter. But but the spirit on this cat was to fight the Most High to the end. Go ahead.
But was larger than that which falls.
And don't think that can't happen there. We just had COVID-19. We just had COVID-19. Them plays, that was just one little, that's all that was, little smack. Them other ones is coming right behind it. And this is going to get beautiful. Go ahead, and listen, and it's important, no matter what he said, deportations, locking people up, blah, blah, blah. Don't even flex on that bullshit. Because none of it matters when it comes to the Most High. This cat terrorized us for years. This Pharaoh terrorized us over there in Egypt. But that shit didn't matter when the Lord came in. And that's why our spirit got to be to the Lord. But you're going to see how Moses was. That's why I want you to hang with me a little bit to get all the way through 15, and you'll get a real feel for how Moses rolled and how he felt about the Lord and what he thought about, what happened and what was in his mindset, according to these old records, what was in his mindset when it came to how the people hated him while he was trying to deliver them and the mind he was in. The brother was bad as shit. And if we had time, like I said, I would love to go read the war. The Egyptians had a war with the Ethiopians, and then they had to come get us because because they was losing the country. The Ethiopians had taken over half the country. They was like, oh shit. And then they had to go get Moses. And it even breaks down, Manetho breaks down in the chapter how they hated the hell out of us. But they had no problem kissing our ass to get Moses to go to war against the Ethiopians. And the minute he ran the Ethiopians out of there, they turned back and hated our ass again. But of course, we don't learn, you know what I'm saying? But that brother held ground with him. But let's read on. It's going to get good.
But was larger than that which falls in the middle of spring to those that dwell in the northern and northwestern regions.
Right.
This hail broke down their boughs laden with fruit. After this,
read that again.
This hail broke down their boughs laden with fruit.
Meaning when it came down, either hitting them or them utilizing it, it made them, everything, diarrhea, whatever they had, that shit was coming out. Probably out of fear. That one was coming out the sky. Bust through your ceiling. Go ahead.
After this, a tribe of locusts consumed the seed, which was not hurt by the hail, so that to the Egyptians all hopes of the future fruits of the ground were entirely lost.
That's what the Lord got to put on Esau. He's Edomite. He gonna make them. He gonna bring them right to the brink where they gonna say, and they already saying. You hear them. I don't know if y'all hear them online. They're online already saying, "What is this? Is this a Nazi takeover? What we gonna do? We gotta survive." They already feeling that. Imagine when the Lord bring them right to the brink. Then you're going to see black men breathe fresh air like, yeah, it ain't too bad out here today. Because they going to be humble. Right now, they humbling us, terrorizing us, trying to put fear in us. The Most High going to humble them. That's what you reading here. You know what I mean? When that COVID-19 came, they were scared to death. I can't wait till the next good one comes. Tsunami or something clear. You need to be clear. Need to be like, this is God. You know, man. Go ahead,
One would think the aforementioned calamities might have been sufficient for one that was only foolish.
Right. For a fool, the previous plagues, even an idiot would have said, yo, let me get wise about this here. But not this bastard. Go ahead.
Without wickedness, to make him wise and to make him sensible, what was for his advantage. But Pharaoh led not so much by his folly as by his wickedness.
His wickedness made him not come up off. And listen, and the Lord said what was to his advantage, meaning If he had been wise and let the Hebrews go, he would have had a country. He would have still had a nation. But this cat was led by his wickedness. And that's the kind of cats we got trying to sit up over the top of us now. They don't fear the Most High yet. Go ahead.
Even when he saw the cause of his miseries, he still contested with God and willfully deserted the cause of virtue. So he bid Moses take the Hebrews away with their wives and children, but to leave their cattle behind.
And he still came back and said, man, leave your cattle. And the Lord said something, not the Lord, but Josephus said something in here that's real heavy. Read that part about the virtue.
He still contested with God and willfully deserted the cause of his virtue.
Right. Willfully deserted the cause of his virtue. Anybody know what virtue means? Let's look it up. Okay. He deserted this cause. And these Edomites desert this cause all day long. Which is why they're going into captivity. You got it? Read it.
Oxford Languages Dictionary version says, behavior showing high morals standards.
Behavior is showing high moral standards. Meaning, this plagues was to make him go what he should have did, which we all should do when the Lord punished us. It was to make him come back to himself and say, yo, let me get right. Let me operate with a high moral standard. Now, operating with a high moral standard, he would have been like, y'all know we done did these people wrong for hundreds of years. Let's move these people out and give them what they want, because we don't have no right to be this way with them. That would be the high moral thing to do. What he turned around and did was the low moral thing. He took brothers who was farming vegetables for him and put them in Guantanamo Bay. You know what I mean? Like, he went and did the opposite. Well, that lack of virtue, and he knows exactly who was selling the drugs for the ones that were selling drugs. So he knows all of this. But did he go to that high moral virtue? Like Josephus said, he went and looked at them records. This bastard did not. So guess what? More pain. More pain. And the same for us as well. You understand? If you don't rise to that high moral standard that the Lord calling to you right now, then you're going to feel the pain. You're going to feel the pain of your hard-headedness, your ignorance. You're going to feel the pain of your rebellion, of your not willing to do the will of the Most High, not bending yourself to the Most High's will to be his servant, to get up into the work of the Most High, to find your place in the work of the Most High, to let your virtue shine. There are all kind of offices in the truth that allow you to become a dignified officer of the Most High with high virtue, meaning you carry yourself in a certain way. You respect what the Lord gave you as your position. You do the job to your best of ability. You are honest. You are straightforward. You understand? You are diligent and not slack. Like, that's what's supposed to be coming inside us as we read these scriptures. As you studying these scriptures and you studying what we did in the past, that's what's supposed to be coming inside you and making you a different type of cat. You understand? A different type of brother. This cat didn't do that. And many of us didn't do it in the past, which is what got us in captivity in the first place. It behooves us to make sure that we get back on top of that. All right, let's keep going.
So he bid Moses take the Hebrews away with their wives and children, but to leave their cattle behind, since their own cattle were destroyed.
And if I could, real quick, you know what this remind me of so much? This remind me of the art of the deal. That motherfucker loved to negotiate. He negotiating our kids, negotiating our cattle, negotiating our position. That's what this bastard trying to do. Right. Same spirit. Same spirit as this cat. But the Most High know how to break a whole nation. Break a whole nation down to, put your face be in the fucking dirt. Disrespecting his power and his authority. Go ahead,
Kind of a concept.
And while he's not on your case, is when you get puffed up. Like you said, between them plagues, you get puffed up and proud and think you know every damn thing. But the problem is when he come back to visit, whoo, you losing every bit of that pride. Whoop, he gonna snatch it right up out of you. You know what I mean? And the same applies to us. So it's best to give up that pride and then take on that spirit of virtue, that righteous spirit that comes from the Most High. That's a high moral spirit, and take on that. And then when you got that in you, now you got something, whether the plague come or not. You know what I mean? The key is, even when the plague don't come, can you be that guy? Right. Can you be that man of the Most High when ain't nothing coming? You know what I mean? That's why nobody can tell the I.S.U.P.K nothing, because when nothing was happening, we were standing on them corners, they acting like we lunatics. Like, what's your problem, man? Go get a job. What they didn't understand was we was upholding a high moral virtue regardless of whether the place is crumbling apart or not crumbling apart. Because why? Why did we hold that high moral virtue? Why was we out on them corners? Wasn't nothing going on. Ain't nothing happened major in America. A couple little minor terrorist attacks, 9/11. Ain't nothing major happening in this kingdom. So why was we screaming and yelling on these corners all the time? Anybody? Go ahead, Doc.
To wake up the lost sheep.
Wake up the lost sheep, but why? Why was we doing all that? Go ahead.
The Lord told us to.
And did it himself. The king did it himself and told us, like you said, to go out and wake up the 12 tribes of Israel. So you 100%. But that virtue got to be in you regardless of what happened. And that was not in this basket, but it was in Moses. Go ahead. It was in Moses from young. If we get to go back, I'm going to show you when he was a young cat. He was a baby, and he had already showed Pharaoh that I don't have nothing to do with your king. I'm come to destroy your mess. Go ahead, Excuse me.
But when Moses said that what he desired was unjust, since they were obliged to offer sacrifices to God of those cattle, and the time being prolonged on this account, a thick darkness without the least light spread itself over the Egyptians.
And that was heavy with Moses. Moses came back once again. He said, look, man, how you going to tell us to not take our cattle when you know we got to need the cattle for the sacrifice? So why would you take our cattle away from us? How, that ain't right to deal with us. Once again, he was right on target. Like, never back down off of what is righteous when it comes to the Lord's chosen people. Like, what you seeing in this cat is a real strong leadership. Like, you can't now say, you in church and the scriptures say there can't be no sodomites in the nation of the Lord. But now you're going to compromise and say, well, God love everybody. You done put down that moral. You put the pressure, you got the pressure on you, and you gave up that moral standard. So now that you've given up that moral standard, what do you expect? You done. Whereas a righteous man going to stand on that even though it's bad. And it pissed the Pharaoh off, which you're going to see in a second. Go ahead.
Whereby their sight being obstructed and their breathing hindered by the thickness of the air.
Brother, this is absolute hell. What happened in them hospitals during COVID? Anybody? They ran out of a major tool. Go ahead.
Was it the mask?
No.
Slocky, sir, the respirators.
That's right. What they call them things? Not respirators, but something else. I forget what they call them. But that machine, remember, they was running out the machine. People was needing the machines to breathe. That's what the hell this plague did. Same thing. They better get ready. Okay? Because this happened in ancient Egypt to where they couldn't breathe. It was more than it just got black. Imagine it get black and you can't breathe. You in hell. You can't see nothing and you can't breathe. Go ahead, Doc.
And their breathing hindered by the thickness of the air. They died miserably.
Damn.
And under a terror lest they should be swallowed up by the dark cloud.
Damn, under a terror. Jesus. They was in that darkness and life. Can't breathe. I gotta get out of here. I can't breathe. In terror. and die in that terror. Play with the Lord if you want to. You know what I'm saying? You don't give a damn about how many bullets you got, the guns you got, or whatever the hell you think you got. Trying to build alien spacecraft and shit and robots and bullshit. You don't care about none of that shit. Come here and send some shit in here so black, choke your ass half to death. You be running into the walls in the dark. You know what I'm saying? But man is stupid. Man is proud. Pride cometh before a fall. You proud if you think you can go toe to toe with the Most High, who made the earth.
Right.
You like, that's stupidity. You was about to say something?
I was just about to say that's enough to have somebody have a panic attack.
Yeah, that's exactly what you read. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what you read. They in there can't see nothing. That'll scare the hell out of you. That's what Esau used in them torture chambers. Put you in a dark room with nothing around you and shit. You know what I mean? That's what solitary confinement is like. It's crazy. Go ahead,
Khan. Besides this, when the darkness after 3 days and as many nights was dissipated, and when Pharaoh did not still repent and let the Hebrews go, Moses came to him and said, how long wilt thou be disobedient to the command of God? For he enjoins thee to let the Hebrews go, nor is there any other way of being freed from the calamities you are under, unless you do so.
Told them straight up, this ain't gonna stop until you do the right thing by these Hebrews. How long you gonna run like this? Here, check out what Pharaoh said. Go ahead,
Khan. But the king was angry at what he said and threatened to cut off his head if he came any more to trouble him about these matters.
Pissed him off, even more so. But check out what Moses came back and said. Go ahead, according to Manetho and the Josephus. Go ahead.
Hereupon Moses said he would not speak to him any more about them.
And this is so just like an Israelite. No problem. I ain't gonna say nothing. Right. Go ahead.
For that he himself, together with the principal men among the Egyptians, should desire the Hebrews to go away. So when Moses had said this, he went his way.
No problem. No problem. You and your boys, y'all gonna call for me to walk up out of here. Don't even worry about it. You don't want me to come back no more? You gonna threaten me like that? I'm trying to help you out. You getting plagued up? No problem. No problem. You gonna call for me. That's basically what Moses was telling this bastard. Go ahead.
Khan. But when God had signified that with one more plague he would compel the Egyptians to let the Hebrews go, he commanded Moses to tell the people that they should have a sacrifice ready, and that
we know this from the scriptures. Remember, Moses told them, prepare yourself for the Passover. We get ready to get up out of here, because the Lord had already showed him, I'm gonna hit this boy one more time, and he gonna get ready to let y'all go. Just do whatever it is you ready to do. Go ahead. Khan.
And that they should prepare themselves on the 10th day of the month of Xanathicus, Salaki.
Go ahead.
And the 14th, which month is called by the Egyptians Paramonth, and Nisan by the Hebrews, but the Macedonians call it Xanthicus, and that he should carry away the Hebrews with all they had.
Would show you he was studying all the records. You know what I mean? He had the Egyptian records, had the Hebrew records, even had the Macedonian records, which was the Edomite records, because he was in the Edomite kingdom of the Greeks at that time. Go ahead. Really the Romans, but go ahead.
Accordingly, he having got the Hebrews ready for their departure, and having sorted the people into their tribes, he kept them together in one place.
Brought them together, set everybody up in their tribes, and y'all get ready. We going up out of here tomorrow. Go ahead.
But when the 14th day was come, and all were ready to depart, they offered the sacrifice and purified their houses with the blood, using bunches of hyssop for that purpose. And when they had supped, they burnt the remainder of the flesh as just ready to depart.
Just like you would if you know you getting ready, you at a campsite, you cooking, everybody eat, you know you getting ready to get out of there. You don't want it to be left for no animals or whatever the case might be. Y'all burn everything at the end. That's our Passover. Same type of event. Go ahead.
Whence it is that we do still offer this sacrifice in like manner till this day, and call this festival Pashka,
or Passover. Good.
Which signifies the feast of the Passover, because on that day God passed us over and sent the plague upon the Egyptians. For the destruction of the firstborn came upon the Egyptians that night, so that many of the Egyptians who lived near the king's place persuaded Pharaoh to let the Hebrews go.
His people came. It was like, look, man, let them people go. My son just died tonight. Go ahead.
Kanawakan. Came upon the Egyptians that night, so that many of the Egyptians who lived near the king's place persuaded Pharaoh to let the Hebrews go. Accordingly, he called for Moses and bid them be gone.
Stand by. I'm sorry.
So, sir, I was just notifying you. A couple brothers been having questions on the line. We haven't been able to hear them.
Oh, okay, excellent. No sweat. Brothers, let me just finish the chapter. We at the very end. I'll take some questions and we'll go one more chapter. Y'all can hang? All right, let's get it done. Finish it up.
Accordingly, he called for Moses and bid them be gone, as supposing that if once the Hebrews were gone out of the country, Egypt should be freed from its miseries. They also honored the Hebrews.
So in other words, they pushed us out thinking, now that we get rid of them, life's gonna go back to normal. We'll go back and fix everything. Go ahead.
They also honored.
We know that the Romans took that, the Greeks took that thing over, and they never came back after that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
They also honored the Hebrews with gifts, some in order to get them to depart quickly, and others on account of their neighborhood and the friendship they had with them.
Right. Some of them was, we was cool with, knew they was wrong, been ripping us off for years, made sure they took care of us. Others were so damn scared and said, look, man, take this. If you leave today, I give you this. Y'all leaving soon, I'll give you this so you can leave, get the hell out of here. That's what they did. All right, next chapter. You at 15? Let's rock out one more, y'all. Come on with it. This is going to be good.
So the Hebrews went out of Egypt while the Egyptians wept and repented that they had treated them so hardly.
Right, and repented that they treated us so hard. Like they caught hell when we left out. And did it say they weep?
Sir. You want me to read that part?
Yeah, read that again. Now check this out. Now you see how white people hate us right now, right? This is how they was when we left, and this is how they're gonna be again. Go ahead.
So the Hebrews went out of Egypt while the Egyptians wept.
They was crying. All the plagues, knew all the dirt they did. Like right then, they were so humble that they realized all the evil that they had done to us for the last 400 years. They realized finally that we was human beings. Finally, they was like, we were so wrong to them, man. We did them so dirty. And they knew that they caught that hell and lost that firstborn son because of how evil they were. So they was weeping and crying when we left. And the same gonna happen here. Go ahead.
Now they took, Salaki.
That was in the 14. Let's take questions.
Salaki, that was actually the beginning.
15, that's fine. All right. You texting, you said, or you open?
Salaki Allah.
Who's this? Can you bring her?
Salaki, sir. This is Officer Napashra Ibe out of Atlanta.
Go ahead, Atlanta.
Salaki, sir. I just wanted to ask the question of how Josephus was posing it. It's almost as though Pharaoh was kind of doing it of himself, like he refused to let the people go, whereas in the scripture we read that the Most High hardened his heart. So is it just something that Josephus didn't perceive, or is it like just a non-scriptural view of the account?
Okay, Josephus is telling you in the story that Pharaoh refused to hearken to Moses. Remember the part where he said he was as if he spoke to Moses and not as if he was dealing with the Lord. Meaning he knew he was dealing with the Lord, but his heart was hardened. So he treated Moses like just some ordinary cat coming in his court demanding something. That's why he said, you come back here again, I'm gonna cut your head off. That's what Josephus is explaining. But remember, Josephus is not a priest. He's a military general. So he ain't gonna explain it to you like this is the Lord's doing. He gonna make it like, according to Moses, this was the Lord's doing, but Pharaoh couldn't see it because of blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to certify it as of the Lord. He's going to tell you what Moses said that it was of the Lord. See what I'm saying? In other words, he's almost telling the story third party as a third party innocent to the story, because he doesn't want to, he's not going to take a priestly position. He's more concerned with having a scholarly accuracy to the story. That's why you hear him mentioning certain words in multiple languages and stuff like that. He was more concerned with being able to be accurate with the story. You know what I mean? You got to understand the atmosphere this cat is in. He's in the Roman Empire. He's under their command. You got all these scholars trying to tell our history. He's stepping in like, no, y'all ain't got it right. I'm going to tell you how it's supposed to be, how it went down. But he's not going to turn around and expect the reader to understand it spiritually, if you could understand what I mean. Like the prophets that wrote the scriptures, they expect you to come to them scriptures understanding this is the word of the Lord. You understand? Right. So they're going to talk as if you already understand that's the Lord, but not a cat just writing a historical record. He's not going to certify the Lord's word. You see what I'm saying? So he was trying to let you know just by their actions that but that was Pharaoh's heart. That was the Lord hardening Pharaoh's heart. Like the Pharaoh said, okay, I'll let you go. Then when the plague went, he reneged on it, which is the Lord hardening his heart. But of course, Josephus is not going to say that. He ain't going to say, but Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He ain't going to add his own spiritual insight, which is what makes this record so important. Because if he added his spiritual insight, we would have to believe him as though he was a prophet of the Lord to even read the text. But since he did it as a historian, we can read his historical counts from the records he dug up. I don't know if y'all got me on that. Okay, so no sweat. That's a good lesson. That's a good question. I'm gonna tell you why. That's a good lesson for you. I'm sorry. No, I'm good. I like to sweat unless y'all do your thing. And that's a good lesson for us in researching history, because in researching history, you don't want a historian trying to tell you the spiritual insight of his historical account. You want him to just give you what he believed happened based on the records. You'll go deal with the spirituality of it. You see what I'm saying? Same brother, can you hear me? Did I lose you?
He sat down, sir.
Oh, okay, no sweat. You take another question, y'all? I think y'all all got the point, right? Yeah, go ahead, Warren.
This is off to 500 Canuck in Orlando, sir.
Come on, Atlanta.
Orlando, sir.
Oh, Orlando, Canuck. Go ahead, man.
Go ahead, sir. Did the other nations see this happening? Like you said, how the Romans came in and took over the Egyptians, when after this, did they see what was going on in Egypt as the Lord was punishing them for mistreating the Hebrews, and then, you know, he weakened that kingdom so other nations can come in and take over certain Salaki.
Okay. Basically, yes. First of all, think like today. Every nation knows what's going on in every nation. Everybody knows we've been their slave. Since this all happened, we've been hearing how the Palestinians coming out saying, our brothers, the Latino tribes from Central South America, they coming out saying, we know how they treated black people, blah, blah, blah. Putin came out with the Russian icons, remember, showing them black, trying to unite himself with Africa. Every nation knows what's going on. Every nation is watching the play-by-play of all this happening. And Egypt, like America, was filled with heathen from all over the world. Remember, the Egyptian government structure is exactly the same as the American government structure. The same thing. You had a pharaoh, you had viceroys, the vice or viziers, I think they call them. Those were like your Congress and Senate. Everything was the same. The temples ran everything just like today. Churches run everything. It was exactly the same. So, and it was also the same with people that was able to come into the nation. So heathens were able to come into the nation, and they all knew what was going on and sending that information back and forth to their nations, just like they do today. You run into, you know, an Arab today, he knows all about the black story, the black struggle, what went on. He ain't shocked by it. So yes, they knew all of this that went on. Some of them have records of this in their records. Some of the records Josephus got, he got himself from the Romans. So they all knew what was going on. But of course, why do they give a damn? You know what I mean? Most of them look at it carnally. Like, don't nobody say the Lord brought COVID-19. Don't nobody say the Lord brought AIDS. Don't nobody say that, because whatever religion or belief they have got nothing to do with us. But we know it because we are the disciples of Christ and the prophets of the Lord. The whole world will know it when we're in power. Just like you know American history. Them nations be reading about Thomas Jefferson, the War of 1865, and all the historical records to see what made them great. Well, they're going to read our records in that day too. All over the world, they'll read them records. They'll say, yeah, man, we know that they had them records. Let's go read them. And when they read them this time, they'll know, then they'll pick up on the spirituality of it. That's why scripture said many of them going to say, let us go up to the mountain of Jacob to learn, I'm paraphrasing, to learn his ways. Because they're going to go open them records and say, yo, truly the Lord delivered these people. Truly this was a spiritual event. Truly there is a God among them. And then they going to come into it. Some do even now. Even now you get an Edomite or two and say, I'm telling you, the blacks in America are the real Jews. Y'all see them on YouTube and so on. Some of them get the point. Eventually the world will get that point.
That's right.
So I hope that answers your question.
Come on, sir. The reason why I'm asking that because, if I may, sir,
please.
Paraphrasing when they say, if the Israelites follow their God, he will fight for them. If they don't, he will be up against them. So I was asking, like,
that's a perfect example. Listen, that's a perfect example of exactly what you asked. Now remember that scripture comes from back in the book of Numbers when the Moabites wanted to curse us. That's where that scripture you just quoted comes from. That whole statement was because the Moabites, so-called Chinese, went to Belial to curse us. We turned around and were doing what the Lord said, and he turned around. You know the whole story with the donkey. With the donkey turned around and cursed them out because he knew, we know about these people. If they doing right by their God, can no man stand in front of them? They know about it. They got the records and all that. Now, whether they believe it or not is a different story. Most of them do not. They believe in whatever God they into and whatever records they into. They dismiss our records like, what do you call when you tell an old story that's not necessarily true? What do they call those? like a fable, right? Like a fable, like an embellishment, like a tale, you know, like Harry Potter, like that. You know, it's like something happened in their mind. Something happened, and they took the story, and over time, they made the story real. You know, like something spiritual. So they don't believe that, but the Lord requires that we do believe, because in the future they're gonna be forced to believe it by our success, by our taking over the earth. They're gonna say the Lord had to be with them. Let's go find out about their God, and then they're gonna really look at the records, and then they're gonna give up their gods. You see what I'm saying? Does that answer for you?
Come on, sir. Go on, sir.
No sweat. Who are you? Any other question? Y'all hang with me a little bit more, right? Anybody else? We good? All right, let's keep going. Start. Yeah, you can start at the top. Thank you.
So the Hebrews went out of Egypt while the Egyptians wept and repented that they had treated them so hardly.
The Lord broke them. Go ahead.
Now they took their journey by Letopolis, a place at the time deserted by where Babylon was built afterwards.
Go ahead.
When Cambyses laid Egypt waste, but as they went away hastily, on the third day they came to a place called Baalzephon on the Red Sea. And when they had no food out of the land because it was a desert, they eat of loaves of kneaded of flour, only warmed by a gentle heat. And this food they made use of for 30 days, for what they brought with use of, they made use of for 30 days, for what they brought with them out of Egypt would not suffice them any longer time, and this only while they dispensed it to each person.
And we don't know for sure, but he's probably talking about the manna from heaven. But once again, he's telling it to you like a historian. We know from the records they ate this food, that they seemed to knead this dough, and it was real soft and only a gentle heat to make it. You know what I mean? Like in his mind, this was like some invention of some bread that we ate for like 30 days. But that's probably the manna from heaven. Go ahead.
To use so much only as would serve for necessity.
Right, which was how we had, you remember what the Lord said, we only gathered for that day, only on the Sabbath, right before the Sabbath, we gathered for 2 days. Go ahead.
But not for satiety.
Right, it didn't satisfy you. It wasn't there for you to be comfortable with it. Go ahead, which is exactly what happened. Remember, right after that, we got pissed off wanting the quails, and y'all know what happened. We still eating chicken like it ain't never, like nothing ain't never happened. Go ahead.
Whence it is that in memory of the want we were then in, we keep a feast for 8 days, which is called the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Maybe that was it, unleavened bread. But go ahead.
Now the entire multitude of those that went out, including the women and children, was not easy to be numbered, but those that were of an age fit for war were 600,000. They left Egypt in the month of Xanathus, on the 15th day of the lunar month, 430 years after our father Abraham came into Canaan, but 215 years only after Jacob removed into Egypt. It was the 80th year of the age of Moses, and of that of Aaron 3 more. They also carried out of the bones of Joseph with them as he charged his sons to do.
I just want to jump ahead a little bit. Kind of concept. Okay, I'm sorry. What verse were you in?
We were up here where it talks about Aaron being 3 more years older.
Go ahead. Hang with me a little bit, y'all, all right?
God.
Give him a little break there, because I want to get to the part. The last part we're going to read today is the part where we got to that river, where the Lord opened up that river, and the mindset of both us and the Egyptians when this happened. Go ahead, according to Josephus. Go ahead.
They also carried out the bones of Joseph with them, as he had charged his sons to do. But the Egyptians soon repented that the Hebrews were gone. And the king also was mightily concerned that this had been procured by the magic arts of Moses.
Right. They thought Moses was using magic arts to make all this happen, when it was the Most High in the midst of his witches were trying to come up against us. Go ahead.
So they resolved to go after them. Accordingly, they took their weapons and other warlike furniture.
And let me tell y'all, that's so the spirit of this place. Like, even if you did everything right, they still would enslave you. If you packed up and left, they'd find a way to try to bring you back and put you back into slavery, which is why the Lord had to punish them like they did, and going to punish America the same way. Go ahead.
And pursued after them in order to bring them back, if once they had overtook them, because they would now have no pretense to pray to God against them.
Right, now they would say they ain't got no reason, because we let them go, we let them make their sacrifice, let's put them back into slavery, and you know what I'm saying? Now they ain't got no reason to complain. Go ahead.
Since they had already been permitted to go out, and they thought that they should easily overcome them, as they had no armor, and would be weary with their journey.
And see, which once again, the spirit of this place, while the Lord was punishing them, they was humble and crying and sad that we was leaving while their firstborn was dying. But then give them a little time, and they got puffed up again, and now they ready to bring us back and put us back in slavery, and you know, plotting on how to destroy us. Go ahead. Which is why the Israelite school of U.P.K has always said, one, the white man is the devil the Bible speaks of, and two, that we had to separate from, and we had to come together as our nation. Now it's becoming more and more evident. White people is in panic now. It's evident now what everything that we said was absolutely right and prophetic and from the Most High. Go ahead, Al.
So they made haste in their pursuit, and asked of everyone that met which way they were gone. And indeed, that land was difficult to be traveled over.
And Moses, of course, being a tactician, listening to the Most High, they couldn't even find us. They trying to find us through this desert. You understand? I don't know if it's in this part, but another part shows you how he avoided the Philistines and other nations. Plus, the scriptures bring it out too. This is a bad cat right here. Go ahead.
And indeed, that land was difficult to be traveled over, not only by armies, but by single persons.
Go ahead.
Now Moses led the Hebrews this way, that in case the Egyptians should repent and be desirous to pursue after them, they might undergo the punishment of their wickedness and of the breach of those promises they had made to them, as also he had led them this way on account of the Philistines, who had quarreled with them and hated them of old, that by all means they might not know of their departure. For their country is near to that of Egypt. And hence, or Salakia, and thence it was that Moses led them not long the road that tended to the land of the Philistines, but he was desirous that they should go through the desert, that so after the long journey and after many afflictions, they might enter upon the land of Canaan. Another reason of this was that God commanded him to bring the people to Mount Sinai, that there they might offer him sacrifices. Now, when the Egyptians had overtaken the Hebrews, they prepared to fight them, and by their multitude they drove them into a narrow place.
Because there was so many Egyptians, we got backed all the way up into like a corner. Go ahead. Must have been hell. Go ahead.
For the number that pursued after them was 600 chariots with 50,000 horsemen.
50,000 horsemen. Not only that, but what else?
And 200,000 footmen.
They sent 150,000 soldiers into Iraq. This motherfucker here sent 200,000 on foot. plus 50,000 more on horseback, and then 600 chariots on top of that. That's how big an army he sent to put us back into slavery. That was a big ass army out there. Probably terrified the hell out of our people. Go ahead.
Khan. All armed. They also seized on the passages by which they imagined the Hebrews might fly.
So as we going down and being pushed into this narrow way, they also sent in soldiers to block out the other exits. So you ain't got no choice but to go down in here or fight them. They was trying to block it up. Go ahead.
Khan. Shutting them up between inaccessible precipices and the sea.
So you had the water back here. You get backed up towards the water. You got the mountains and everything on these sides, and any exit into them valleys, they done blocked all of those exits off. Go ahead.
Khan. For there was on each side a ridge of mountains that terminated at the sea.
Right, so they had mountains coming down to the sea. So you backed up to the sea, and they coming in, and they cut off any exit avenues to get out of there. These are some wicked bastards. Go ahead. And we was unarmed, which is just how Esau do. He come to your house to bring a warrant. He bring 30 cats for one dude. 40, 50 cats, trucks, tanks, guns, all that shit. Go ahead.
Which were impassable by reason of their roughness, and obstructed their flight. Wherefore they were pressed upon the Hebrews with their army, where the ridges of the mountains were closed with the sea, which army they placed at the chops of the mountains, that so they might deprive them of any passage into the plain. When the Hebrews therefore were neither able to bear up, being thus, as it were, besieged, because they wanted provisions, nor saw any possible way of escaping, and if they should have thought of fighting, they had no weapons. They expected a universal destruction.
Just like we are now. We in the hood. We ain't really armed or prepared or anything. It looked like we could be easily wiped out. And they looked like they was about to take that opportunity. But brother, the most high power, brother, is your power.
That's right.
He is no damn joke. Let's finish this up. Come on, we almost done. All right, give it up for the most high. That's why this Passover is so important. Real quick, everybody got the announcement on the change in the funds, right? Beautiful. So everybody know to just pay their Passover and pay their jacket. Is that correct? Excellent. All right. So y'all make sure you pay that Passover out. All right. Get out there if you got to grind for a couple of weeks just to cover it, get that money in and out. So we can have a full-fledged celebration. You know what I'm saying? And when you get called up for that jacket, make sure you step up in there like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Work hard for this shit right here. All right. Go ahead. So sorry about my crazy braids. I see them now for the first time. Go ahead.
Unless they delivered themselves up to the Egyptians. So they laid the blame on Moses.
Right, they put it on Moses, which is us. We panicking, we're afraid. This is important to remember. You see brothers panicking, and there's pressure, and they ready to turn on brothers, you watch that. You watch it and make sure you never be that kind of guy. Like that pressure, backed up in that hole like that, them Egyptian armies stand up over them with weapons, no way out of it. Fear come over you, thinking about your wife, your kids, all of that. How you gonna survive? That's what's going on out here. When that shit come on you, dismiss that shit. Dismiss that shit. Because that's Satan trying to break you. And you're gonna see it. These words that you're gonna hear right now is important. You want to really be a soldier of the Most High. You want to really rock that jacket as a man of God. Add what he getting ready to read in these last few parts of this to yourself. It's going to say a lot. Go ahead.
And forgot all of the signs that had been wrought by God.
They forgot everything the Most High just did for them before that. All that, which is what fear does. Fear makes you lose your memory and paralyzes you. That's the point of it. That's why you don't never want fear to rule over you. Because the minute fear come over you, you can't think clearly. You only think, your body goes into automatic survival. And you don't want to just be in survival mode. You want to be clear-minded to make a clear, right decision. You understand? Which may very well be an aggressive decision as opposed to a fleeing decision. You understand? You at least want to be clear enough to know which one should I do. You don't want to be in fear where you only thinking to flee. You understand? Read on.
And forgot all of the signs that had been wrought by God for the recovery of their freedom.
Right. Forgot that the Lord did all this for them to be free. And he going to do it for you to be free. Don't forget the COVID-19. Don't forget that. Don't forget that AIDS on them sodomites. Don't forget that. Don't forget all these plane crashes you hearing. Don't forget none of that. Okay? Don't forget about cancer. Cancer hanging around. He ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? Remember what the Lord is doing and fear not when they come with that evil. Go ahead,
And this so far, that their incredulity prompted them to throw stones at the prophet.
They were so afraid and so worried that it made their whole mind change and start now trying to stone Moses. They like the Egyptians, the enemy over here with the guns, which is so us. The enemy over here with the gun, they ain't mad at them, which is just us. That's why we let slavery go like that, because out of fear. And we don't, sorry, point it, like we don't worry about that. These Egyptians sitting over here with all these weapons and power and all of this, but we mad at the brother that caused them to be here. Like when the cops come, they come and all of a sudden there's 20 patrol cars out there, lights flashing. Get on the ground, get on the ground. We mad at the brother that caused the shit. Right. We ain't mad at these motherfuckers with all these guns and lights threatening our goddamn life for no goddamn reason. Instead, we gonna blame us as though we done did something wrong. Go ahead,
Like I said, this is how they do us. They mad at us because we talking about the oppression and defending our people. They ain't mad at Esau, they mad at us.
Yes. You know what I mean? They mad that we even bringing it up, like they're making them more afraid. When it's exactly what you have to do. It's exactly why we do what we do. You understand? And let me tell you something, you're going to find your full manhood in walking into that fire and not being afraid. We're going to find everything that you made up. It may not come out. You might be 80 pounds. You understand? Just a computer geek. But brother, you're going to find that shit in you. And when the time comes, it's coming out. And it's going to rock the world. Believe that. Read. Let's finish it up.
Prompted them to throw stones at the prophet while he encouraged them and promised them deliverance. And they resolved that they would deliver themselves up to the Egyptians.
They was done. He said, look, man, the Lord is with us. We gonna win this. Look at everything that happened with us. They like, fuck that shit, man. You was talking that shit all the way back in Egypt, man. They cursing Moses out, throwing rocks at it, trying to kill him. You understand? And then resolved among themselves to surrender to the Egyptians. That's hell. That's hell. You had to back up at the sea. They just said, which is why Christians can't be in charge of. Right. Because that's what they get ready to do. They're going like if they leave it to them, they're gonna make us kill our babies in the abortion clinic. Make sissies out. Well, all right, we give up. We'll do. No, brother, we gotta stick with the Most High. Back against the wall, life, death, whatever. That's the only, like, people don't understand the Bible. That's what the Bible is about. It's about Satan putting the guns to you and you turning to the Most High when them guns is on you and your back is against the wall and you standing up against it and breaking through to see the other side. You understand? Like, that's what life is about. That's what a man is about. A man, you want to be a man? A man is about coming up against the pressure and fear of this world. Right. In all its aspects, with your woman, with your job, with whatever it is you dealing with, your mindset got to be that I live to battle. I live to win against the evils that's coming down. And how you win, how do you win all the time? Simply by what he just said earlier, by putting that virtue on yourself and knowing if I'm wrong, I gotta back up off this. If I'm right, I gotta fight to the end. Like that's the core of who you are. Like right here, now you done got to the core of who these people are. They done been brought out of Egypt. They done seen miracles. They done had different battles. But this battle here is going to wash out exactly who they are. And at the end of the day, they not fierce enough to not be a slave. Like the pressure of the world made them accept being a slave to the Egyptians. Knowing they done got out of there. Knowing they ain't supposed to be up under these people. Knowing what these people did to them. But the fear and the pressure will make you take slavery. And the Egyptians ain't taking that. The Egyptians standing up like, yeah, we ain't backing down. You gonna be a slave. The question just becomes then, do you accept being a slave? Or is there something inside you that can stop it? Christ said this, man, and it was not no small statement. He said, that would, get it right for me, y'all. He that is in you is greater than he that is in the world. That spirit that's in you is greater than all of this. But you don't have to recognize that it is. And it takes courage to do that. Courage when courage is necessary. Not courage with the mouth. They was talking all that shit before. When they got to this part, they wasn't talking that shit no more. Shit talking went out the door then. Then it was, we ready to go back to Egypt. It said they reasoned within themselves. Meaning they talked about this shit and said, I know we was talking that bullshit, man. Fuck that. We go back. These motherfuckers gonna kill us all. You understand? Like at that point, you gotta be like, for the Lord, for the truth, for the righteousness. Let's read on.
So there was sorrow and lamentation among the women and children.
I mean, them women was broken. It was distraught at what they was about to see getting ready to happen. Go ahead.
Who had nothing but destruction before their eyes.
In front of their eyes, there's nothing here but our death. We done. Go ahead.
While they were encompassed with mountains, the sea, and their enemies, and discerned no way of flying from them.
No way to get out of this, y'all. We done. Go ahead.
But Moses, though the multitude looked fiercely at him.
They was like, you brought us out here. You know from the scriptures, you brought us in here to die, man. I mean, they fiercely angry with Moses. This ain't no regular cat. It's a bad motherfucker right here. Excuse my French. Right. Check out how he go. Go ahead.
But Moses, though the multitude looked fiercely at him, did not, however, give over the care of them.
Brother. That shit shook me when I read it. I'm sitting up in the crib. I'm in the crib. I'm under the little light. I said, motherfucker. I jumped up off the book when I read that shit. He said, regardless of that shit, he did not give up the care of them. Even though they looking at him like, we gonna kill you for putting us in this, we all gonna die. Moses like, fuck that. We fighting to the end. I'm not giving up the care for them, brother. That, you gotta put that in you. You throw that jacket on, you gotta put that on. When you march up there and they hand you, and your car hand you that piece of paper, you make that commitment with yourself that day. Right there on the spot, you make that commitment with you and the Most High as you put that jacket on your back. You ain't giving up the care of this nation. There's no guy. You know what I'm saying? This is bad cat. You know what I mean? Like, if Josephus' record is accurate, which it sounds so accurate, then this Moses was just no damn joke. You know what I mean? Like, though he's seeing all that, his mind go to, fuck that, we gonna come out of this shit. Go ahead,
But despised all dangers out of his trust in God.
Despise all dangers. You understand what that means? He just meaning, there's what? There's the what? We gonna die? Fuck death. That's what that means. That means fuck them Egyptians. Fuck their army. Don't give a fuck what they got. He despised that shit. He got pissed off and despised that shit. All because of the Most High. That's how much he loved the Most High and loved his truth and trusted in the Most High. Read it one more time for me.
Wakanda. But despised all dangers out of his trust in God.
Despised all dangers out of his trust in the Most High. Read on. That's a man. That's a man dismisses danger based on how much he had faith in the Most High. You understand? You got faith in the Most High, you will see the danger, you will act accordingly. You may have to do, whatever you got to do to survive, but you don't let the danger overtake you. Right. You understand? You don't let what this beast is threatening our nation with, and our people with, and our tribes with, overtake us. Right. Shit gonna happen. We're gonna see horrible shit like they seeing horrible shit. But we're not gonna give up our nation. We're not gonna give up the care of our people. Right. Go ahead,
Wakanda. Who, as he had offered them the several steps already taken for the recovery of their liberty, which he had foretold them.
He had already told them, had already taken those steps to recover their liberty. They lost their liberty in Egypt. Here they are now out of Egypt. So they halfway there to recover their liberty. And he said, nah, we're going to get it off. Right. We're going to get this liberty. Go ahead,
Would not now suffer them to be subdued by their enemy.
I should have put you on camera the whole time, Salakia. Go ahead. Go ahead.
To be either made slaves or be slain by them. And standing in the midst of them, he said, it is not just of us to distrust even men.
It ain't right. It's not right that we distrust the Most High in this case. It's not right that we have a lack of faith now when the Lord did all that for us in the past. And we should be that same way with this truth. Now ain't the time to have lack of faith. How the hell you wake up to being an Israelite? How you found your history and your culture? You sitting up in here, man, come out the ghetto and understand everything the Bible is talking about more than the best scholars on earth. Right. How the fuck did that happen? Shit. Now ain't the time for us to distrust in the words of the Most High. Right. And in the truth of the Most High. Because there's no way we were supposed to get this. There's no way we were supposed to build camps, come together, get our culture back, our identity, our garments, all our records back. There was no way for us to find this after the so-called Jew claimed himself to be a Jew, took our identity, took over our land to this day, empowered himself in that land. We were supposed to be done. Yet we found all that back through the hands of the Most High. Now what? Now we gonna be scared? Now we gonna back up off of it? Now we gonna run? No, man. This happened because of the Lord. It's easy to forget a miracle after it's happened and you going on with your life. But we got to remember these things. Like the Egyptians didn't remember them plagues. Once the plagues was over, they went back to who they are. We got the same problem. We don't remember the great gifts the Lord give us. You understand? We go right back to it. You ride a motorcycle, get in an accident, you in the hospital, first thing you say is, Lord, I know I shouldn't have been selling them drugs, man. I ain't gonna sell no drugs no more. Please have mercy on me. Now the surgeon go in there, the Lord work with his hands. He restore your leg back like it never was before. You come up out of there. Yeah, nigga, it wasn't no shit. You know me, nigga. Ain't no thing. You back out selling drugs. You didn't remember. You didn't remember the miracle the Lord did and how he called on you and how you called on him and how he had mercy on you and delivered you from that situation. You didn't remember that. And now something worse happened to you. You understand? We got to remember the greatness that the Lord did for us. If you in the Israelite school of I.U.P.K, that shit wasn't no accident. Right. That wasn't because you just was surfing YouTube and somehow found this. That was the Lord put that spirit on. That's right. One man planted, another man watered. The Lord give the increase. Right. Only way your brain was able to decipher this and come into this truth was because of the hand of the Most High. Right. Don't take that shit lightly at all. You understand? Don't take that shit small in the least. Read on. We almost done. A few lines and we done.
it is not just of us to distrust men.
And what kind of mind he had to have for us? It ain't to say that ain't right. You understand? For us to now go give ourselves over to the Egyptians and trust them over the Most High. It's like Moses understood that it was a disrespect to the Most High for him to have done all those things, and now to turn around and now be like, you know, we're gonna go listen to the Egyptians because we afraid.
Right.
When look what the Lord did, like you gonna disrespect me? Like, come on. That's like a homeless man. He come up the same street every day. And every day he come up the street, you give him a plate of food. He thank you, man. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Then the next day he come down that same street, somebody else come out their house for the first time and say, listen, man, I'm gonna give you double the amount he gave you. I just want you to go over there and tell the cops that really the drugs was being sold in his house. It would be wrong for you to do that because that's the goodness came from this cat house. The virtue came from this brother house. But now you're gonna turn around and just out of fear or for gain, you're gonna cut this brother's throat. You understand? That ain't right. And Moses understood that. Like, why would we listen to them when it was the Lord that did the miracles? We gonna give ourselves over to them? Listen, let me tell you something, Mark. Add to yourself virtue, like Paul said. Add to yourself a very high moral standard.
Right.
Add to yourself a very serious spirit of righteousness and brotherhood and honor and respect for one another, brother. And it'll carry you very, very far in the work of the Lord. Give me a little more. Let's finish this up.
When they have hitherto well managed our affairs, as if they would not be the same men hereafter. But it is not better than madness at this time to be despair of the providence of God.
Right. He said it's like you got to be crazy. If you think now is the time to now, you know, get rid of the Most High when you done seen all these miracles.
Right.
It's like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't we now trust in the Most High? Go ahead.
By whose power all those things have been performed, which be promised, when you expected no such things.
Go ahead.
I mean all that I have been concerned in for you deliverance and escape from slavery. Nay, when we are in the utmost distress, as you see we are, we ought rather to hope that God will succor us, by whose operation it is that we are now encompassed.
That's why, brother, we got to be in that spirit. Always praying, always coming together, always pushing what's righteous, always seeking the Most High to step in and do A, B, and C to bring forth this nation. Moses said we ought to now, you know, count on the Lord to succor us, okay, or secure, which would be today's modern English. Go ahead.
That we are now encompassed within this narrow place, that he may deliver us out of such difficulties as are otherwise insurmountable, and out of which neither you nor your enemies expect you can be delivered.
That you or the enemy don't expect this to happen. But now's the time to trust in the Most High and be secured in this truth. Go ahead.
And may at once demonstrate his own power and his providence over us. Nor does God use to give his help in small difficulties to those whom he favors.
Right.
But in such cases where no one can see how any hope in man can better their condition. Depend therefore upon such a protector as is able to make small things great, and to show that this mighty force against you is nothing but weakness. And be not affrighted at the Egyptian army, nor do you despair of being preserved, because the sea before and the mountains behind afford you no opportunity for flying. For even these mountains, if God so please, may be made plain ground for you, and the sea become dry land.
Right.
Keep going.
16.
Yeah, just to begin, just to hear what happened.
When Moses had said this, he led them to the sea, while the Egyptians looked on, for they were within sight. Now these things were so distressed by the toil of their pursuit that they thought proper to put off fighting till the next day.
Right. They were so, they had run up on us and they had us backed up. They said, man, let everybody rest. We get up tomorrow and kill these niggas. Everybody take a break. I mean, we've been chasing them down all through these rocks and mountains. We got their ass backed up to the sea.
Right.
They stupid as hell, man. Let's take a break. We're going to get some rest. Go ahead.
But when Moses was come to the seashore, he took his rod and made supplication to God and called upon him to be their helper and assistant. And he said, thou art not ignorant, O Lord, that it beyond human strength and human contrivance to avoid the difficulties we are now under. But it must be by thy work altogether to procure deliverance to this army, which has left Egypt at the appointment. We despair of any other assistance or contrivance, and have recourse only to that hope we have in thee. And if there be any method that can promise us an escape by providence, we look up to thee for it, and let it come quickly, and manifest thy power to us. And do thou raise up this people unto good courage and hope of deliverance, who are deeply sunk into a disconsolate state of mind. We are in a helpless place, but still it is a place that thou possessest.
Meaning, even though we in this hell, you own all of this.
Right.
But we shouldn't have nothing to worry about, even though we in this bad situation. Go ahead, Doc. That's where real men really rise. Go ahead.
Count out of one kind. Still the sea.
Somebody speaking?
I made sure.
Please, who's this?
So 5,000 gallons of Shalom headquarters.
Hey, Shalom, bro. Go ahead, New York.
If I may, I don't want, what is the climate at this time that this is being put together as far as the scriptures being in circulation?
Okay, you need to be more specific with me. I'm not sure what you asking when you say climate. And
The climate as reading, was the scriptures in circulation at the time that this was being written? Like it was common for people to have.
Oh, no. They didn't have no scriptures. They had no scriptures. There was no records put together. Remember, they didn't even know the Most High's name when we came up out of Egypt. All they had was Moses and the miracles the Lord carried out. And next week, we're going to go back and see Moses's rise in Egypt, how he became a military general. The whole reason they was able to sort of look to Moses and he was able to rise over the top was because he was killing all the enemies of the Egyptians already. So they was able to focus on him, and he was already saying to them, I'm gonna get y'all out of here. I'm gonna be your, I'm gonna be your general. Y'all stick with me. Let's stand up. Let's blah 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 blah. He was already what you would call like an activist, but a military general activist, if you would, in Egypt. So what they did is they already knew, he had that potential. But then when he came back into Egypt with the Lord, then it was clear to everybody, even the Egyptians, that this is who he was. But that's all that we had. We didn't have no records. All of those records got put together after. Remember, the Lord had to tell us what the first of the year was, because we were so damn confused, like we are in America right now. We don't even know the date. We think January 1st is the beginning of the year. So the Lord had to set the dates back and fix everything and give us our history. The scholars had to write, and that's why they're called the first 5 books of Moses, when really it is, not really, but it is the first 5 books of Moses. But my point is, those are called the first 5 books of Moses because those scholars that came out with Moses over time sat down and started now putting those records together. So they attributed those records to Moses. But it was scholars who wrote all those records. We had a piece of the records here and a piece of the records there. So no, we didn't even know the Most High's name.
No, if I may have one.
Uh-huh.
So like you, sir, I didn't
Go ahead.
express my question.
Okay, I didn't understand it, baby. Go ahead.
Just during the time that you was putting those records together,
Right.
was it mainly from outside sources, or was the scriptures in circulation during that time? What was the climate of our record being in circulation during the time of Joseph?
Okay, who we talking about, Josephus or Moses?
Josephus.
Josephus. Okay, now I understand. During the time of Josephus, our records was in all the countries around us. Our records was in everywhere from up in Babylon all the way down to Egypt and beyond. Our records was everywhere. That's why Josephus had to go all over the world to get the records here to put them together. So yeah, we had our records were all over. People knew all about this. They knew. Remember when, again, back in the book of Numbers, remember when the king of Moab went to Belial to have us cursed, Belial already had our records. You understand? Well, those records was somewhere in some country, and Josephus was able to go find them. You understand what I'm saying? And there was other sets of records from all the prophets, from David's kingdom. All of those records were all over the place. Remember, Jeremiah hid the ark with the commandments in it. So the records was everywhere. Josephus just had to gather them up. I think that's what you're asking me, correct?
Sir.
Yeah, so yes, the answer to that is yes, the records was there. I thought you were talking about when we was running with Moses out of Egypt. We had no records. We was on our own. We just had Moses and the Most High. And that was it. All right, let me finish this up. Go ahead. That was it, huh?
I see Tawana.
Oh, Yahanna ball warrior. Tawana. All right. Any other questions real quick before we finish? We got a couple of lines and we done. I know we went over time, but I wanted you to get this, all right? Actually, we didn't go over time. We still got a little time, all right? Let's finish it.
We are in a helpless place, but still it is a place that thou possessest. Still the sea is thine. The mountains also that enclose us are thine, so that these mountains will open themselves if thou commandest them, and the sea also. If thou commandest it, we will become dry land. Nay, we might escape by a flight through the air, if thou shouldest determine we should have that way of salvation.
Remember, they didn't have nothing that flew back then. But Moses was still saying, if it be your will, we'll fly in the air and get out of here. Go ahead.
When Moses had thus addressed himself to God, he smote the sea with his rod, which parted asunder at the stroke, and receiving those waters into itself, left the dry ground as a rod and a place of flight for the Hebrews.
Mm-hmm. See, they had it right in that Cecil B. DeMille's movie, where that water was enfolded in itself, but they ain't have it right the way he struck that water. He struck that water out and split that whole thing up. Go ahead.
Now, when Moses saw this appearance of God, and that the sea went out of its own place and left dry land, he went first of all into it, and bid the Hebrews to follow him along the divine road, and to rejoice at the danger their enemies that followed them were in, and gave thanks to God.
Because once again, he understood that this thing that opened up, this is of the Lord for us. And they following us, they in bad. They gonna get themselves killed. And that's exactly how we should be looking at America. Like, they playing with the Most High. They gonna get themselves destroyed. You understand?
Nice.
When our time of captivity is over, you know what I'm saying? Right. They ain't supposed to be playing this game. Right. They gonna mess around and get themselves in a jam with the Most High. That's what Moses was saying here. Hang on 1 second. I'm almost done, and then I'll take your question if it's all right. Bear with me one. Go ahead. I just want to get us out of here. But I'll take your question at the end. Go ahead.
and gave thanks to God for this so surprising a deliverance which appeared from him.
Go ahead.
Now while these Hebrews made no stay, but went on earnestly, as led by God's presence with them, the Egyptians supposed at the first that they were distracted and were going rashly upon manifest destruction.
Right. The Egyptians thought we was afraid and bugging out and thought we was going to kill ourselves in the river. They thought we was just jumping in the water. Go ahead.
But when they saw they were going a great way without any harm, and that no obstacle or difficulty fell in their journey, they made haste to pursue them.
Right. They started looking like, they getting down at that. What the hell? He said, let me go on and get them. Go ahead.
Hoping that the sea would be calm for them also.
Go ahead.
They put their horses foremost and went down themselves into the sea.
Remember, 250,000 soldiers plus 600 chariots. Go ahead.
Now the Hebrews, while these were putting on their armor,
don't tell me that shit ain't down there in the bottom of that sea. Go ahead.
And therein spending their time, were beforehand with them, and escaped them, and got first over to the land on the other side without any hurt. Whence those others were encouraged and more courageously pursued them, as hoping no harm would come to them, neither. But the Egyptians were not aware that they went into a road made for the Hebrews.
Not made for them, made for the Hebrews. Go ahead.
And not for others.
Come on.
That this road was made for the deliverance of those in danger, but not for those that were earnest to make use of it for the others' destruction. As soon, therefore, as ever the whole Egyptian army was within it, the sea followed to its own place and came down with a torrent raised by storms of wind.
They didn't just, that shit was storming. Right. Just busted they shit all up. That shit was crazy. Good,
and encompassed the Egyptians. Showers of rain also came down from the sky, and dreadful thunders and lightnings.
Dreadful thunders and lightnings. Go ahead.
With flashes of fire. Thunderbolts also were darted upon them.
Dang.
Nor was there anything which used to be sent by God upon men, as indications of his wrath, which did not happen at this time. For a dark and dismal night oppressed them. And thus did all them, and thus did all these men perish, so that there was not one left to be a messenger of this calamity to the rest of the Egyptians.
There wasn't not one cat left. Go back and tell them what the hell happened. I think we're gonna stop right there, y'all. You know what I'm saying? That was the story, you know, and a better insight to what it is that we went through and how we should be going forward. Any questions online? I'll take any if we get in the room. Salakia, somebody had their hand up earlier.
Lock yourself, my man.
Go ahead, Warrior. Who's this?
Salakia, sir. It's police officer 50 BAYAN YAHUAH out of headquarters, sir.
Go ahead, Bayan.
So I just had a question about Moses. Like, was the Most High actually speaking to him?
Yes, Most High was actually speaking to Moses. Remember when he went up to that bush? Once again, we'll come back and read the other earlier chapters, and it brings out how he went up to the bush and he was looking at this bush burning. But he said when the bush spoke, he was like, "What the hell?" The voice came out the bush, out the flame. He was shocked. So yes, the Most High was definitely talking to Moses. Just like the Lord talks to you sometimes. Sometimes the Most High tell you to do something. Don't go down there. You listen to the Lord, and now you don't go down there. You know what I mean? So, and the Lord will speak to you more as you get closer to him, as you put more faith in him, as you pray to the Most High, as you get more discipline and more self-control in your thoughts and in your ways. The Most High begin to show you more and open up more to you and make you more of a spiritual man. We all have it. All you have to do, it happens all the time. Sometimes what do we call it when you talk to somebody and then you see what they're saying behind they saying? We say we read that person. It's not that you reading the person, it's the Lord is showing you what's going on. So yeah, in this case, the Lord stepped out there and spoke to Moses, just like it says in them scriptures. Answer your question? Underbar. Any other question? Go ahead. In the room.
It's unrelated to the story.
Okay, well, let me get the story once first. Just hold on. Anybody else on this and what we read? Come on with it. Go ahead,
Go ahead. When you said that they carried Moses, not Moses, but they carried Joseph's bones out, right?
Right.
It's because he was kept in like a Egyptian kind of tomb, sir, right?
No, it wasn't because of that, and he wasn't in an Egyptian tomb because he was in Joseph's bones was in the area we call Cairo today. At the time, it was called the city of Avaris, which was the Greek name for it. But but the original name was Goshen. And they kept his bones up there in a tomb for him, called the tomb of Joseph. And so the reason Joseph wanted his bones out of there, one is because he knew in the spirit that the Lord, not in the spirit, but he knew from the prophecies that the Lord would come for Israel eventually. And when they came for Israel, he wanted his bones to go to the Lord's land also. He didn't want his bones left in Egypt with them Egyptians. He knew they was about to be destroyed. So he said, bring my bones with you back to our land. That's why he wanted them to get the bones. But it was spiritual in that it was to let you know that Joseph was a vision, had those visions, and that those visions was true. It was proof of that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he wanted them to take his bones up out of it. And they did not have him in an Egypt. That's another myth. They did not have him in an Egyptian tomb or in a pyramid. A lot of people try to say he was in one of the pyramids of Giza. When his bones was in Cairo already. Okay, long before all of that. You see what I'm saying? Does that answer it, or did I leave something out?
The water, sir. The water, sir.
No sweat. The water you. The water you. Anybody else? No. Give me a question, Warrior.
Khan. I wanted to break down 1 Corinthians 15 and 40.
Let's get it.
I'll read the verse ahead and give you some context.
Go ahead.
All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial one and the glory of the terrestrial one is another.
And you want a breakdown of it?
I just wanted to know.
Sure. Let me see if I can get with you. These are 1 Corinthians 15 and 40, right? Okay, we'll go back over it with you, right? You 39 and 40, right?
Well, 15 and 40. Let's
start at 38. Read 38.
But God giveth it a body as it hath pleased him, slightly. And to every seed his own body.
Right. So every kind of thing that there is, the Lord gives it its kind of body. So like fish, the flesh of fish is not like the flesh of a cow. It's totally different, right? The fish meat is different than the cow meat. The cow meat is different than the chicken meat. So birds have a different kind of flesh. Mammals have a kind of flesh. So does fish. Now he did that to show you that these bodies, that there are also bodies.
0.7 miles to 1338 St. Peter's Road, Pottstown.
Yeah, put your phone on mute, Warren. He was saying that to say also that there are bodies that are not like yours, like bodies that are celestial. So there is a body that angels have that is not like our body. It's a different, just like it's a different flesh between fish and birds, there's a different flesh between celestial bodies and terrestrial bodies. So your body got one flesh, one ability, but that celestial body is a different kind of body, is what he was trying to explain.
So the celestial body would be the angel.
Yes, the celestial bodies are the bodies that are off the world, that are not confined to this third dimension. Fuck all that shit Esau talking about, aliens and all that bullshit. He making that shit in the laboratory. There's bodies that are spiritual bodies, and then there are bodies that are fleshly bodies. I'm clear, right? No sweat, no sweat. Any other questions outside of the story? We out of here. We done.
Go ahead.
Who's this?
It's Officer 500 Barak Atlanta.
Go ahead, Atlanta.
I just want to know, as far as Josephus, is there another historian for biblical accounts we can also look to?
Okay, I would not look at any other account except the Apocrypha and the Josephus. And even I look at the Josephus with strong skepticism because it's not written by prophets. Now, every other account I would stay away from because, for this reason, it will poison your mind to think that there are things in the scriptures that are not. You start reading the book of Moses, the book of Enoch, you know, all this other shit they got out here, the book of Thomas, and all these other records, and it'll get you confused, just like the scripture said. Too much studying is weary. Many books are rather right. Like you don't need that. You need your stories clear. You know what I'm saying? Like as we read this account, we didn't find any disparagement between its account and the scripture's account. Which, by the way, if you don't know already, you know that's your measuring line. You read anything out there that's against the scriptures, you know to dismiss it because it's some other record that's inaccurate. I'm sure if I search high and low in this Josephus, because it's a historical account, I'm sure I'm going to find some records that are not accurate. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe one line or some line here or there that's not accurate. So I would not touch it for my spiritual growth's sake, for my ability to really get this knowledge down in me. I don't want all that. That's why you hear a lot of cats say, yeah, man, I study all records, man, and all that. They don't know that they really study in confusion. You got to be narrow-minded. You got to take the scriptures, go with what the scriptures say, then measure everything else that you decide to get into outside those scriptures. And if it don't fit that bill, then you ain't messing with it. You know what I'm saying? Does that answer your question, Warrior? You got it. Anybody else?
Salaki General, if I may, sir.
Go ahead. Who's this? Is this my main man? Go ahead, Warrior.
Shalom, sir. I.O.C.K out here in Baltimore, sir.
Shalom, Warrior. What's going on in Baltimore?
Shalom, sir. Salaki General, if I may, was Pharaoh aware that Moses was a Hebrew as Moses was growing up in the care of the Egyptians?
He absolutely, not only was he aware of it, this is why I hope we get to go over this next week. Because, brother, not only was he aware of it, all the scribes was telling him to kill Moses because he was a Hebrew. They were saying, man, I'm telling you, man, because what happened is when Moses, y'all heard about what Elon Musk's son did to Trump when he was in the Oval Office, how he disrespected him. Remember that, because I don't know why that happened, but it's a reminder of what happened with Moses. When they brought Moses into Pharaoh for the first time with his mother, Pharaoh took the diadem, which is the crown, and put it on Moses' head. Like you do with a kid, you put your hat on his head or you put your crown on his head. Moses took the crown and threw it on the ground and stomped on it. And the scribes was watching. And they said, we told you that's him. That's that child that's going to, you know, they reading the stars and shit and into all kind of voodoo bullshit. So they know this kid gonna cause destruction on the kingdom. And they told him, man, kill this kid. But the kid had so much talent and ability, which was the Lord's doing, that they said, nah, man, leave him alone. The Pharaoh was like, nah, because remember, Pharaoh's a tactician. He's in charge because he's about warfare. And so what the Egyptians knew, just like Esau knows, when you go to school and you real good, or you know hit what they call a genius, or you hit them high levels, what's the first thing Esau do? He snatch you up and pull him with him. We're gonna give you a scholarship to go to Harvard or to go here. He gonna get you to Princeton. He gonna get you out the hood and bring you up there with him. Because why? He needs the best minds to run his empire. So Pharaoh saw the same thing in Moses. Even though Moses was coming against him, he looking at Moses like, this cat has got real, he's special. So let's not kill him, let's utilize him. But the scholars wanted to kill him bad. And if we get to read that next week, you'll see throughout his whole life they hated him. They hated him but needed him. Hated him but needed him. And that's what rose him to power, because they needed him every time because of his wisdom and intelligence and his ability to go to war. Especially when they went to war with the Ethiopians. They lost half the country. You know what I mean? The Ethiopians was occupying half the country. They didn't know what to do. And finally they said, man, you got to go to get Moses. And Moses brought us. We was Moses' army. And Moses brought us, and we went down there and fucked them Ethiopians up. Excuse my French. Don't excuse my French. Fuck them. You understand? Like we messed them Ethiopians the hell up. And then they went back to hating Moses. So yeah, they definitely knew that he was a Hebrew. They knew that he wasn't for their kingdom. They knew all of that. But once again, in a jam, you're gonna shut your damn mouth and you're gonna do what you gotta do, which is what they were in. But he was always coming up against them from a young boy. Okay. He was coming up against them so much in the beginning. His mother went to Pharaoh and told Pharaoh, give me your word that you will not kill this boy, because I've taken him as my son and my heir. Yeah, I want your word, because the scholars are saying, don't take him. Don't take that child your daughter got. And but he promised her he would not kill Moses, and that's when he took Moses in. So we're gonna read about that next week and show you how he navigated that whole thing with them and how he went and got us all prepared to get up out of there. This before all the plagues and all that. We're gonna read the part of his life before, when the scriptures say he came down to look upon his brothers. We're gonna read that earlier part, what he was learning from the Egyptians, what he was dealing with, the racism he was there, just like Jake today. Them brothers that get up in them high seats, like Donald Trump just fired the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This cat here, brother, was the highest ranking military soldier in the country, was a brother, and you damn near never heard of him. He was, but he had more military power than anybody else. But you damn near ain't hear about him. Donald Trump fired him. Couldn't stand, say he was a DEI hot. You understand? All that type of shit. Well, that's exactly the same thing. But what he don't, if that cat come down and decide he gonna build his own army of niggas, it's gonna be a problem. He know all the secrets. You know what I mean? He know all the secrets. So that's the kind of thing that Moses went through. So I hope that answers that, bro.
Oh, God, the water too, sir.
Why do you? Good to hear from you, Ward. Anybody else before we get out? Go ahead.
Sorry, I had one from my
Stand by online. I got one from your diet. I'm coming right to you.
So this is from Officer for War. He wanted a general breakdown of Isaiah 13 and 8.
Isaiah 13 and 8. Let's see.
Sir.
Bear with me a second. Let me get with you. Go ahead and read it. You know.
Sir. The book of Isaiah, chapter 13 and verse 8. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames.
Okay. And so you want just a general breakdown? Okay. This is right on what we've been talking about real quick. This scripture is talking about the state of America. It's talking about Babylon, which means it's talking about America. All right. And yes, they're going to be afraid. Here's what's going to happen. At some point, they're going to realize this program with Trump and all this new age bullshit, they're going to realize they made a mistake. And they're going to realize how vulnerable they are. Somebody going to come out of somewhere. I'm not sure who. I haven't checked the records yet. But somebody coming out of somewhere to do something. Plague or virus or some kind of something they going to do that's going to scare the hell out of America. And like the scripture said, they're going to be afraid, pains and sorrow going to take hold of them. Meaning all this, we going to be on top, white supremacy talk, that shit is about to change. And they're going to be in sorrow and pain, meaning it's going to change the whole atmosphere in America. They shall be in pain, and as a woman that travails, like a woman that's pregnant, she is always on her mind, is always getting ready to happen, and severe pains start coming. They come and go and come and go, and they just make her miserable. Well, that's how this empire is about to become. They shall be amazed one of another. Their faces shall be as flames, meaning like you see people when they shocked, they're gonna be like that, like frightened at every day. You know what I mean? You gonna step out your door and your neighbor gonna go, huh? What's going on? You gonna be like, oh, everything's cool. I'm just going to walk the dog. All right. They're gonna want to go over a bridge and be like, no, let me off the bus. Let me off the bus. You're gonna be like, what's wrong, lady? Let me off the bus. I'm not going over that bridge. There are terrorists probably over there. Let me off. It's gonna be like that. They're gonna be astonished at everything, afraid at everything, terrorized by everything, because they're gonna realize that they fucked up. They stuck their head out there, and instead of winning, they just sent they already feeling it. You got these Edomites is getting on camera talking about my fellow soldiers. You know, we swore to fight for the Constitution, not for no king. You know, remember your oath. Remember, in other words, they scared. Like they think this cat gonna become king, kill the Constitution, and now all their rights and everything they worked hard to build gonna be destroyed. So you got Edomites doing that. Other Edomites, you hear them all the time saying, you know, they got books out on TikTok. You know, buy this book on how to survive, what to do if the grids go down. You know what I'm saying? How do you survive? Blah 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 blah. That type of shit. That's what this is. That's what that verse is talking about. Because of these times that's coming on them in Babylon. You know what I mean? Oh, they're not online, so yes. I can't hear their response, right? Oh, yeah. So I hope that answers that question for you. Now, somebody online had a question. Brother online?
If I may, I don't want that story you ended about Moses, sir, it's also 5,000 yachts out of headquarters, sir.
Most time crash.
Sir, so remind me about the Haitian Revolution, because when you look at Napoleon and the French, they were using the black soldiers to celebrate who was a great general for them.
Yeah.
He defeated Spain and England for them.
That's heavy. And then turned around and got his back against the wall when he counted on him to go up in there and kill his own people. Turned around and he went and killed them instead. You know what I mean? So you're right. That's another example of exactly what could happen. You know what I mean? All of that's happened. Once again, you can't control what the Most High created. You could think you know so much, and the Lord flipped the script on you right before your eyes, and you can't believe it. You know what I mean? Any other questions? Last call, y'all. Anybody else? Before we go? All right, let's thank Yediah holding us down up in here. Officer Marah holding us down in the class. We definitely want to thank Captain Akkad Abarayan, the Waterford Reed Warrior. We want to definitely thank Akkad Abariah, man, for holding us down like he does every week. We're almost there. I think we got about, what, 6 weeks, 4 weeks before we wrap all this up. We at the end now. Everybody's looking good and holding it down through the grace and mercy of the Lord. Let's give ourselves one courtesy salute. Majib. Barak.
YAHUWAHSHI.
Yahweh Shema Shabrak Thumb. Dismiss.